Greetings. I am coming to you from Fountain, Colorado. I am loaded and now I'm doing my 30-minute DOT break, my Department of Transportation break that's required every day before I can get driving again. I technically have enough time on my clock to get to where I'm going next, but it's a good time to take a break, and then I'll get more time on my clock, on my electronic log, to complete my day without having to take another break later today. But I'm not here to talk to you about breaks, even though I'm on one. I'm here to talk to you about The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, and this week we are discussing Chapter 10, Recovering a Sense of Self-Protection. And there are no accidents in life. I have needed this chapter this week like never before. Julia begins this chapter by saying, "This week we explore the perils that can ambush us on our creative path. Because creativity is a spiritual issue, many of the perils are spiritual perils. In the essays, tasks, and exercises of this week, we search out the toxic patterns we cling to that block our creative flow." This week, more than once, I have felt ambushed. So what Julia talks about in chapter 10 is our perils, and where we can get ambushed are in our distractions and our addictions. And she talks a lot about common addictions and distractions being food, work, and sex. And she says, note carefully that food, work, and sex are all good in themselves. It is the abuse of them that makes them creativity issues. She basically talks about, when we are feeling creatively blocked, we actually turn to our distractions and or our addictions to justify, not doing the morning pages, not going on a solo artist date each week, not doing the work, not actually painting, writing, whatever our creative expression is. What I found interesting, and this book is about 20 years old, is Julia did not cover getting caught up in other people's crises. When other people are having a crisis and we get sucked into the drama. She interestingly does not cover that at all, at least in this chapter. If that is a trigger for you, if you know that that is a block for you, I recommend The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. It's a more recent book on working through creative blocks, and he talks about that in detail, and that's what's been coming up for me more than being a workaholic or turning to food to distract me or numb me when I don't want to deal with what's happening in life. A few days ago there was a full moon, and I swear to God I felt like when the full moon hit, I'm okay, but it seems like everybody around me in my immediate personal circle is dealing with some fairly serious crisis right now. And while I am not directly impacted, being so enmeshed with my husband, my parents, close friends, it's difficult to not feel impacted by what they're going through. And so I referenced the Steven Pressfield book of not getting caught up in other people's crisis, because that's what's been coming up for me. It ties in with this chapter, and even though Julia doesn't address it, I feel it's necessary to address it, that with everything going on in our crazy world, it's really easy to get sucked into bad reality TV shows and the news, whether it's locally or internationally, and of course the drama of our lives and the drama of the people that we co-create our lives with. So that's what I've personally been struggling with, is what everyone else is going through, trying to remember where I stop and where they start, and remembering what is mine to take care of and what is really theirs to work through, but also recognizing that we are all mirrors of each other. We attract the people in our lives who are going to push our buttons, who are going to, if we allow it, to help us grow on our spiritual path. And this week, more than ever, I have been leaning into the morning pages. I have to write. Not because Julia says I should write, but I have to. It has been my therapy for dealing with the things that are happening around me that it's not even happening to me, but I'm so close to it. I can feel other people's fear, other people's anxiety, other people's concern, and I'm trying to not get sort of pulled down into their rabbit holes with them. I want to walk with them and support them as they move through what they're moving through, but I need to remember what it is that I need to do to take care of me. And I'm so grateful that I'm doing the Artist Way. I took a break, but I picked it up again, and I'm so grateful because the morning pages are a lifesaver and my lifeline right now. So that's the bulk of chapter 10, and then Julia also talks about competition, how we can use comparing ourselves to other artists, especially artists that work in the same medium as us, comparing our success or lack of success to our perception of another artist's success, and not, what I try to do is look at what other people are doing and be inspired by them, and to remind myself, okay, they're showing me that it can be done. They're proof that it can be done. They are blazing the trail, and I'm going to follow their footsteps. I'm going to study what's working for them and take what works for me and emulate what speaks to me. But what we tend to do is we compare, and then we criticize ourselves, and it becomes a slippery slope. And so she warns against that as well, of the negative comparison, and being conscious and aware that that might be an area where we're allowing ourselves to not create. So yeah, that's chapter 10 in a nutshell. Next week we're going to talk about chapter 11, recovering a sense of autonomy. She says, this week we focus on our artistic autonomy. We examine the ongoing ways in which we must nurture and accept ourselves as artists. So we'll get into that next week. In the meantime, lean into those pages, man. It's a lifesaver. And do what you can to live creatively. Lately, I am finding myself very busy and not having a lot of time to get into the in front of the canvas. So when I bought my latest sketchbook, I also bought a journal. When I bought my latest journal, I bought a sketchbook, and I'm playing with circles and lines right now. So that's a new one that I started today. So I'm taking just like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there when I'm at a stop to pull out my little sketchbook and doodle, to do something. It's helping me keep my hands busy, my mind busy, instead of worrying about what's going on in everybody else's lives. I'm finding little ways to live my own personal philosophy, to live creatively, so I can get through the days and weeks to come. So that's it for now. Signing off. I'll see you next week, and we'll dive into chapter 11.